What if I told you there's a world out there with the most beautiful gleaming colors? A world full of mesmerizing treasures, where you find joy and purity and abundance. What if I told you that you could find an endless universe within yourself? Are you ready for a journey? Then come with us and discover the colors of the universe. Now, on Ascension Radio, Studio 3.
Welcome to Ascension Radio Studio 3, Colors of the Universe. We're back, finally. I'm very excited and happy. And today we have two guests. We have Tamara from our Ascension Radio team, and we have Freya. Hello, how are you guys doing?
Hi.
Hi, Evie.
Very good.
Good today. Enjoying the weather outside. It's nice and sunny and warm.
Nice. Yeah, here it's super warm too. Freya, maybe you want to introduce yourself a bit. What's your background? Where do you come from? Where do you go?
Okay, no problem. Freya Ferdinand, if you look for me on Facebook. But I essentially am a researcher. I've been researching for about 8 years, but rather intensely. At one point, I was putting in about 12 hours a day on research, on the days that I could squeeze that in anyway. And basically, I am in search of truth, and I cover many different areas, such as the secret space program, the Illuminati, Hollywood, general politics, and I'm just very excited to be on your show today, Evie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Do you want to give us your thoughts about what you think is going on in the world or has been going on in the past few months that people started to go crazy, or that the government started to go crazy? What do you think?
Yes, I do agree. But the government's been going crazy for a very long time. It's just that now they finally decided to show themselves to us, to show us how crazy they are. And I wrote about this a couple of years ago. You might have seen that on my Facebook page, Tamara, but I talked about something crazy, something hinky was going to happen in the year 2020, right before the elections. And I knew we were building up to it then. I could almost see it coming, see it happening. I just didn't know in what form it would reveal itself. Because the Democrats, they have a lot on the line. And they need to win this upcoming election, because essentially when Donald Trump was elected president, he spun the entire world on its head. So I knew that this wasn't the end of the maniacal sort of operations that the deep state had planned. We went through false flag after false flag in the years, in the past years. And so now they're basically putting us in a vice. They're cornering people with this COVID-19, and I have a few theories as to what happened with that illness and how it came about. There's evidence that Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates have been involved with this all the way back into the 1950s. They've been working on different viruses to basically unleash on the public without the public being aware that they're under attack. So this goes back many, many, many years. And Dr. Fauci has a bit of a checkered past working with Bill Clinton and the prison system and the HIV/AIDS virus. So essentially, they're just being more aggressive with their tactics. There's information that came out that the Obama administration had given $3.7 million to the Wuhan lab. The lab was actually here in the United States, and they were partnered with Canada as well. So Trudeau is not off the hook by any means. And so basically, I believe it was the Department of Homeland Security basically removed those viral study laboratories, kicked them out of the country, and they were forced to take their operations to Wuhan, China. And there's a lot of sleight of hand that went on. So this virus was developed, it's man-made, as Bill Gates foresaw in the past that there would be a man-made epidemic, possibly unleashed on purpose on the basically on the world. And it has nothing to do with the wet market, which is literally across the street from the Wuhan labs. So that was just a cover story. Just like the African green monkey was a cover story for HIV and AIDS, it was also a weaponized disease. And so this is where we are today. These are the ways the deep state sort of fights back. They play dirty. And basically we have front row seats to this event that is affecting the entire world.
Yeah, let me skip back a bit, because I think many listeners are actually also from abroad, or haven't heard of many words yet, like, let's say, deep state. Can you maybe explain what the deep state is?
Sure. The deep state is an invisible underground faction of the government. It's also known as the military-industrial complex that JFK spoke about in his famous speech. I believe Eisenhower also spoke about the military-industrial complex. It started, I want to say, back in the 1940s, began to formulate, and then it was solidified when JFK was president. So this would be our, what we call our alphabet agencies, and then also the Pentagon, and then our military. And the Pentagon controls our military. So the Rothschilds, I'm sure everyone's heard that name before, actually have orchestrated through the Illuminati, through Freemasonry. I'm sorry, do you hear any of my alerts going off? I just want to check.
No, you're fine.
Okay, great. So basically the Illuminati, and this actually goes back to 1776. This coup that we see kind of manifesting at this time started at the beginning of our country. To be honest, it started before our country was even founded, but you get into an area that's not really spoken of very often, but it's true. We were a country formed and dedicated to the crown by these elite nobility families of Europe. And so they devised this plan to capture America from the original inhabitants and then make this a land that was a corporation for the crown. So that's where it really started. And so they commissioned the Rothschilds to come over and sort of subversively take control of this country. And it took 400 years to sort of get to where we are today, where the control measures are so integrated in our everyday life and society that we don't even know that they're there. And so they infiltrated, they brought over, after World War II, they brought over the different Nazi scientists and doctors, and then those individuals sort of infiltrated our scientific, medical, and education community, and they literally took control. They invented the television, subliminal messaging, and all of these means of mental control. So they basically were able to capture an entire nation without anyone being the wiser. And these are sort of underground operations, meaning they communicate in a way that isn't public, and they communicate through symbolism. They communicate on devices that aren't well known. They have different secret ways that they communicate these different actions that lead to an action that means complete and total control, not just of the government of this country and many others, but also of the people and the minds of those people. So this has been going on for a very, very long time, and this is a secret amalgamation of many different government agencies, what we call the evil faction of our government. So we have now a good side of our government represented by Donald Trump, our current president, but we've had this evil secret faction of our government that's just remained in the shadows. It's also known as the shadow government. And it's just been moving forward like a locomotive, but an invisible locomotive. And the overall end game for these individuals is complete and total control of every man, woman, and child in this country, and then on the planet, which is the greater goal.
Right. And if somebody wants to go and look up some more information about some of the background that Freya's talking about, Project Paperclip is a good place to start, and to see how that it's a little bit ahead of the 1776 stuff. But Project Paperclip talks about where the Nazi leaders were taken and what's gone on and how they infiltrated in the US and how their projects have continued, to give them a little more idea of how and why the deep state is running like it is, and what their projects are that they're still continuing in the US and all over.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for adding that.
Nice. I'm actually wondering, what do you think about Trump? Because I don't want to give people any fixed direction. Like I want to go away from a black and white thinking. But what I've been wondering is, he is part of the elite, but still he's going against a part of the elite. What information do you have there?
Right, and thank you for reminding me of that. That is very important, not to say whether something is or isn't. Like you said, we rely heavily on the research, and the opinions expressed here are our own. So I find it very interesting, having watched Trump sort of develop. I was watching him since I was a young child, and just always had my eye on him. And he was someone that everyone sort of looked towards throughout his career. I'm not even sure why he was always in the spotlight, but he was. And to see what he accomplished, but also the people that he was surrounded by and the people that he spent time with are the people that we're talking about. So the community, our truther community, is very split on what to think and how to feel about Donald Trump. There are some people that don't believe he is any different than any other elite person we've ever talked about. And there's people that never wanted to believe he was any different, but they're watching his actions and they do see that he's going against the establishment, which is, I mean, it's everything we've all wanted to do, but we never had a representative. And so it seems like he may be that person, or at least playing the role of that person. So what that means deep down is, I mean, we really don't know. Those who believe and follow what's going on and follow Q are essentially following on faith. You know, we see the signs, we've paid attention, we understand this was different. When I talked to you earlier this week, I mentioned that I was studying AI and I was researching the secret space program, and that was like just something that I was really into at the time. I had a Facebook group for gifted people. I'm a gifted individual, so I wanted to find like-minded people and then give us a home where we could be safe to talk about our experiences. And I was doing that at the time, and then all of a sudden, when he was elected president, I dropped everything because something inside me said, I need to pay attention to what's going on. This is the most important thing that's ever happened in my lifetime, be it good or bad, I can't tell you. So when I talk to people and I try to explain to them what this movement is and why I'm a part of it, and I do have to focus on the president, I never tell anyone that he is one thing or another thing. I just ask for people to pay attention, to do their own research, to watch to listen to what he says, to understand that the president speaks on 3 different levels when he speaks, for example, for people just coming into this understanding and not knowing all of the past details. And for example, when Q came onto the scene in October 2017, we learned that the president speaks to the general public, he speaks to the Q team, and then he speaks to the awakened American patriot. And a lot of times he says things that don't make sense. He makes these unusual mistakes that the press has a really great time making fun of. But in reality, he's sending messages. He's sending covert operative messages to the Q team and to the military and whatever higher level players that we might be unaware of, to the NSA. And then he's also talking to the American patriot. And so once you learn these certain symbols, these mistakes, how to read his tweets on a different level, there's a reason he wanted to tweet. There's a reason he fought to keep his Twitter account. And that's because he is communicating not just to us, not just in general, but he's also communicating to the military or to operatives in the field. So he wears many hats, and we don't know what color those hats are, as you mentioned. But like I said, the people who are following this movement are doing so on faith because we understand what we have gone through as a country. We understand what the world has been through, and so many other countries haven't fared as well as the United States. But this is absolutely and 100% a takedown operation of this country from the inside. And we've been warned for at least 60 years, if you want to refer to JFK's famous speech, as I mentioned earlier. We've been warned. We were asleep. We weren't awake. We weren't listening. We didn't know. We had to get, burned a few times in order to start to awaken. And one of those events was 9/11, I know, for a lot of people. So we had to see what this shadow government was capable of, and mass effect across the spectrum of this country before we were able to awaken. A lot of people woke up after 9/11 happened and began to question and open their eyes and look around and then listen to what certain political figures said and then watched what they did and realized that those two things didn't equal one another, you know. So
Right.
with the president,
Go ahead,
I'm
Freya.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, with the president, we're seeing something a little different. So it's really worth your while to look into, you know, the president, his tweets, and also watch his speeches. I never miss. I at least try not to ever miss anything that he says, because I know there's a coded message there.
Right. And the plan that you're talking about has been, the people they get frustrated and say, oh no, this is not real and this is not happening and Trump is not really doing what he's doing. And again, and Freya and I have been talking about this for months and months, and I tend to sit more on the fence and just kind of see what happens. I'm not on either side. There's stuff that goes on that I'm really excited about and stuff that I'm not so excited about. However, he is the only one that has been moving forward to do anything about this deep state. And had the election gone another way, things would not be very good right now for the US. And then the people get impatient and say, well, he should have just gone and done this, and he should have just arrested everybody, and it should be done by now. But if you follow along and you look at how things, especially now, are starting to unfold, and his plan all along has been to make the deep state out themselves, because that way there's no way that people can deny what's going on. And even the people who have been, you know, either on the left or just not Trump followers, can see that these people have ill intentions. And the things that are going on, the draconian laws that have been put in place and rules, and the things that the deep state is doing to get the control right now are so drastic that even, you know, the naysayers can't keep following these people. Hopefully, let's hope that that happens, that everybody finally wakes up. But that's kind of been the plan all along, is to have these people out themselves and to put them in the spotlight so that there can't be any dispute about, hopefully, when they come to be arrested and go on tribunals or trials or however that takes place, that the evidence is so solid and that they've just gone so completely over the edge that there's no turning back. And that's the only way to defeat this, because otherwise there's going to be uprisings and people who still follow them and don't believe. So it's, and like Freya's saying, with the Twitter and the communication, all of this has been very well thought out and planned out. And, you know, people like to say, well, he's not that smart, but, you know, even me, who's not 1,000% on board, you can't deny that what he's done is brilliant. And the way that he's making these people come out and show themselves, you know, this governor that's up in Michigan, who is just, you know, she'd have everybody in their houses locked down with guards outside if she could. She's nuts. She's stopping, she won't let people buy American flags and seeds. And, you know, it's just, they're being shown for what they really are, and at some point it's going to bite them in the behind.
What I realized quite a while ago is, when someone is being hated so much all around the world, then check this person out very detailed.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it doesn't only happen with Trump. It also happens with Putin or many other people in the world, and while others are being worshipped. And why is it so important to have media in Germany hating Trump so much? You know, what has that to do with Germans? Like, it's a different, well, theoretically it's a different country. So Germans should not be bothered so much by an American president, but they are, because the media is making sure that the Germans, of course, also other countries, but that's how I saw it in Germany, how I experienced it. The media is making sure that people really, really, really hate him, so that they don't take anything seriously what he's doing. And that's well, I didn't realize it with Trump. I think I realized that earlier, with other people who were being hated, that I have to look at those people, or at it doesn't need to be people. It can be organizations, or anything that is being hated or worshipped in the media. I should look at it more detailed.
Right, to see the agenda behind it. What's their agenda?
Yeah, and to really question, okay, since this person or thing is being hated so much, what is behind it? Since this person or whatever is being worshipped so much, what is really behind it? Is this person really that great? You know?
Right. And you brought up Putin, and Freya and I have had interesting conversations about, what's really going on with him. And then Evie, you and I also had a similar conversation about there's all sorts of different theories, but is he really a bad guy? He's always been cast as the tyrant, and he's trying to take over the US and start a war. But then you go back and you look at Obama and Clinton selling them the uranium, and they were buddy buddy, and then all of a sudden that all fell through. And I still laugh when the debates were going on with Trump and Clinton, and there was one point where they said that Putin had nuclear warheads pointed at the US, and it was the night of the debate. And Hillary is up there, and she is just slamming Putin, and she's saying all sorts of stuff. And everybody, the media had all said, Trump is going to start this war with him, and there's nuclear bombs pointed at the US. And Hillary is on national TV just going to town, tearing Putin apart. And I for the life of me, could not figure out why she's doing that when the whole media is saying he's got warheads pointed at us and that Trump is going to start a war. And she's up there, and all I could picture was Putin sitting at his desk with his finger over a button, waiting for her to say one more thing. But a lot of us know, who have followed too, and even the media will say it and try and paint Trump in a bad light with Putin, that Trump and Putin have been friends for years and their families are friends. And so, I always thought that narrative was a little strange, that the media kept putting out there that Trump was going to start this war with Russia when they had a fairly good relationship, and Clinton was the one who was up there starting all the issues and fighting and just basically trashing Putin any chance she could. And then of course we had the whole Russian collusion thing, where we know how that went. So, but to watch some of the things that Putin has done in the not so distant past, where he with the COVID stuff, I think he gave the country a lot of financial relief, and I would have to go back and refresh my memory. I can't remember everything, but some of the stuff that he's doing is not terrible. And I know he hasn't always been the nicest guy to his country, but he has said some things recently that aren't terrible, and he's against the New World Order, and he's blatantly come out and said that they are Satan worshipers. So, that right there, he's not terrible if he's willing to come out and say that, and he's against the New World Order. I think that we need to take a second look at him and see what's really going on. And then we have Trump on the other side, who is also against it. you know, so maybe they're not the worst guys ever, and we need to do a little more research and see. But Freya, I forget what it was exactly that we were talking about, the things that Putin had done, and we were both pointing out that, you know, some of the stuff isn't so bad.
Well, I mean, he honestly hasn't been a bad guy in a very long time. He does have that reputation, and there's more to that story that I won't say here because I'm not sure. A lot of people don't know that there were some changes made to the Russian government back in 2010, 2011. But he essentially enacted Sarah in his country about 2 to 3 months ago. He fired his entire government and held the representatives, had a meeting with the representatives, and basically told them, you will start caring for human life. You will pay people who have children. You will pay them to have maternity leave. You will basically financial assist people who have young children up to the age of 5. You will make sure that they have money for food. You will make sure that children are eating in school. You will make sure that the elderly people have not just affordable health care, but life extending care, meaning their hospitals were going to change their policies, and they were going to focus on forwarding humanity and taking care of human life for once, because we can see in this country, especially right now under this COVID-19 scare, and the horror stories that you hear happening in places like New York City, where they're just leaving people unattended, they're dying from neglect in a hospital, in an emergency situation, in a place where you go to be cared for, people are not being treated and they're being allowed to die. That's actually in Obamacare. They have something called death squads. You can research that for yourselves. But all of these practices that you see taking place in our healthcare, anything that goes against the basic doctor's oath, you know, to save anyone's life at any cost, the opposite is actually in Obamacare, which is why another thing Trump has been trying to do is to eliminate Obamacare altogether, because it is a booklet all about death, or it is a document all about death. And that's not the direction we need to go in any longer, because we have been on that path.
Right, right.
Freya, do you know anything about Trump's support a few years ago for the big pipeline through Standing Rock?
Yes, I did hear about that, but I don't know a lot about it. Other than, in my own opinion, I think that he really was trying to, in a very backwards way, to establish the American economy through our oil reserves that we've had all these years and never tapped into, because our shadowy government wanted us dependent on foreign oil, namely oil coming out of Saudi Arabia, because we've had a strange partnership with Saudi Arabia, which is a country that, next to China, violates a lot of human rights with their own citizens. But we've had, if you look to the Bush administration, both father and son had very close relationships with Saudi Arabia. And so to make America dependent and not be able to stand on our own financially has a lot to do, you know, with our with our dependency on foreign oil, I should say. So I think he was really just trying, he knew we had reserves that were untapped, and trying to get that going, because if you looked at the reports from last year and the year before that, by 2019, we were the #1 oil manufacturer in the world. And that means tons of money coming into this country and making this country solvent again, which we haven't been in probably over 100 years. So I think that was the goal. I don't like what happened, running these pipelines through, Native American sacred lands, poisoning the water, killing animals, and then the police response and all that was going on. But again, just to end my thought, I think people don't understand that Trump has to play two sides of the coin. He's playing a game because this is what all the elites do. They play a certain game. And so he has to have a certain face to the general public. He has to sort of seem like he's going along with things that are part of the elite global agenda. And then behind the scenes, he throws a curveball when he knows that it's safe to do so because his life is on the line. His family's life potentially is on the line as well. So I'm not sure if he did that just to set America up set her up in her old glory again, to financially stabilize the country, which I think that was a big part of it. But this is just temporary as well until we get to alternative energy, which he also is aware of.
Yeah. The weird thing is that the pipeline wasn't just redirected. So during this time right now, I keep thinking back to that situation like 2 or 3 years ago, because for the Native Americans, it was a huge fight, and not only for them, but also for many other people and for other states, through which the, I think, Missouri River runs through. So that's why I cannot, how can I say, that's why I'm still very skeptical about him, because people would have been still upset if he just had chosen another path for that pipeline. But that specific pipeline, it was part of an old prophecy, and it was I think they called it Black Snake. And the prophecy included that if they don't stop this pipeline, or if they don't stop the Black Snake that will come, then they will be lost. So it's hard to understand or to see anything positive in that situation, because I think he could have just redirected it,
I mean, that's true. Possible that he could have. I really don't know enough about the situation. It's a little close to home for me. And I just sort of, looked from afar without getting too emotionally involved in that situation. But I don't know if there's, financial reasons, legal reasons, land surveying reasons why it couldn't have been redirected. I really don't see why it couldn't have. And yes, there's a lot of prophecy being fulfilled, and that's interesting that you brought that prophecy up, because there's many different things going on. And even though I can openly say I support this president, because I do, and it's just, again, on faith, but I see things too that get me a little riled up, a little worried, a little upset. But then it comes back and I find new information. But that doesn't mean, one thing that I learned studying the Illuminati all these years, and that's been my main focus, nothing is ever how it's presented to you. Even if it looks good, it can still be staged, because these people know how we think. They know how our brains work. They know what we respond to, and they'll give us all of that and more. So if they really wanted to convince us that this was the real deal, they're doing everything they absolutely can. Whenever I get a chance, I look into the future and see, are there any pitfalls based on what President Trump is doing at this time. And it's like, absolutely, there's red flags and there's bells and whistles, because this man built a wall, right? He built a wall, and even though there's a good argument as to why we may need a wall, we're locked in. We're not locked in if something, say 30 years from now, were to happen and there was some sort of civil war, or war came to this country for the first time on land here, and we needed to flee. The only way you can do it now is by ocean. Can't really go into Canada because Mr. Trudeau has showed his true colors. So just say it happened now, and the wall was fully built. We're now trapped. So how do we know this isn't a long game? This is, I mean, I'm being completely honest. These are things that I would never talk about openly on my platform, because I don't want to alarm people unnecessarily. Now, if there's something that I see that can't be avoided, I'm going to voice it. But this is like into the future. I'm looking in possibly 30 years from now. There's, say we do win right now and everything goes great, but this is just the long extended version of the game. They're not finished with us.
Yeah.
We're not real. So I do understand where you're coming from, and I do look at all sides of the argument. I have to. I'm a realist. I have to be honest with myself before I can be honest with anyone else, and I make sure that I do the hard work. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's another reason why I brought it up, because I want to look at different perspectives, and I want to, as much as I can at least, try to understand the different perspectives. Because, yeah, right now I see he's doing some interesting, good stuff, or says some interesting things. And I would think, oh, okay, cool, wow, this is surprising for me. Maybe he's a good guy. But then I remember, oh wait, but 2 or 3 years ago there was something really bad going on, and people really suffered, because he was so fixed on building that pipeline. So I try to find the truth and the balance, and to just form my opinion based on as many perspectives as possible.
Right. And I think that's
Yes.
the intelligent way to look at everything right now, because there's so much false information out there. If you're not questioning everything and just trusting blindly, there's no way that you'll ever know the truth. It's so chaotic at this point. Even those of us who are doing all the research, it's really hard to sort out what's real and what's code, and what's a false flag to bring about some other event, or what is Trump doing to trip up the deep state, or is he really doing it for real? The vaccine issue right now is a huge, just mass mess where, we all know, and part of the reason that I was for Trump in the beginning is because of the vaccine issue, and that he was very outspoken about the vaccines and making them safe. And the back and forth that's gone on now with the developing the vaccines, and he gets on the conferences and he says, yes, I'm going to push the vaccines, and then everybody was having a heart attack with his last announcement that he was using the military to do this. And again, there's the side that says you have to have patience and you have to have faith, and he's got a plan for this, and he's tripping somebody up, or he's going to develop the one that's a safe one without all the heavy metals and the additives, or the new version of the virus that's really going to kill off the rest of the planet. And he's going to beat Bill Gates out and develop his first, so that Bill Gates can't come back and kill everybody with his version. There's the other side you have to look at. Is he just part of it, and he's just driving us into the same place. I would prefer to think that he's taking us to a good place, and he's trying to either trip up the deep state or develop a vaccine that's going to be effective and not kill everybody before the bad side does it. But, you know, we'd be stupid not to look at both sides and question everything, because it's just such a mass of misinformation. And, you know, again, the cabal, their whole thing is about creating chaos and opposites and making sure that everybody is confused. So, you know, at this time, it's super important to question everything and make sure that you have information from all sides and you're not just blindly trusting everything.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But I wanted to say that, you know, a lot of us are out there looking for answers, but the one thing that the cabal is expert at, and that is creating the distraction and having you look one way while something else is going on underneath the surface. So it's not even always about looking at the different sides to determine what the truth is. Most of the time and throughout our history as people, we've never known what the truth was until it affected us.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's their specialty. And that's the thing that I try to always remind myself. It isn't like what the current debate is. It isn't what the current situation is in the world. It's what is it that we don't know about? We need to be looking for that as well. Because if you look, there's a lot of troubling things about the president and his relationships with, say, Netanyahu, Bibi over in Israel. They actually worship President Trump. They have a coin with his face on it that I think it's a gold coin that they're selling. And you don't hear about these things too much in the United States. Then you have his son-in-law, Jared, who is a Shabbat. I don't know a lot about that particular sect of Judaism, but it's sort of like, from my understanding, the hitmen, so to speak, of that religion. So there's some very strange things that we do want to pay attention to and factor in. But I don't want to forget that we sometimes have to be looking for things that we don't yet know about as well. If you think you can do that at all, if that makes sense. But
Right.
We have to be looking at hidden agendas.
Yeah. Stuff that we've never even thought about yet that has been going on. And yeah.
Yeah. These people are very, very advanced. You know, I see people on social media calling them stupid all the time. And that sort of strikes me as strange because they're not stupid people. The people that they parade in front of us may be stupid people. But the people behind the scenes are not stupid people at all. The problem is that they're absolutely insane. They're pure evil. But they're not stupid at all. So it's not a joke. It's not a game. We're fighting for our lives. And what I try to relate to people is, as long as we're breathing, as long as we're alive, we have an opportunity to change things. That's what we need to remember. As long as we're still here, we have a fighting chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I often say many people cannot imagine how evil something or someone can be. But I also think those people can also not imagine how good something can be or someone. And I think that's something that we were being taught as well. That many people cannot truly believe that we deserve something really good, that there can be a big amount of love and peace, that this world can truly be peaceful. that people can truly be peaceful, or that they themselves really deserve love. And I think because they were taught to not love themselves, they cannot imagine how much love is there, but also therefore cannot imagine how much evil there is, you know?
Yeah, it's really true. And if we ever get to the point that I hope we're going, there's going to be so much healing that needs to be done. From the children to the adults. I've been counseling. I do sort of a spiritual counseling. I've been doing that since I was 18 years old with the help of my guides. And I'd like to tell you a little quick story if you don't mind. But back in 2015, I had a visit from one of my guides. It's actually a newer guide. And he told me the work that I've been doing, I'm going to have to intensify it because we're getting close to the end, he said. The end, not the end of the world, which I figured out later. But he says we're experiencing a judgment period right now, and things are going to be getting crazy, and people need to be ready for what's going on. So he basically approached me and said, intensify your work because the time is short. And it completely freaked me out. Time is short? What do you mean? I'm only a certain age. There's so many things that I haven't done. But what I didn't know until Q came along was, if we are going in the right direction, if all of these things are legitimate, if this Q operation is legitimate, if the president is legitimate, if the government, part of the government that supports him and is working with him is all legitimate, then we're ending this time of lifelong suffering for generations and generations of people, where this shadow government continued to take and take and take and take for us, down to taking people's children, right off the street, kidnapping children on the way to school, or breaking into someone's house for a child. I mean, things that people didn't know about. That needs to end. And hopefully that's what we're working towards right now. But when that time comes, not only will the masses be shocked about who was involved, how far or how much they were involved, and then who they really were and what they did behind closed doors. I mean, this is going to destroy people's understanding of what reality really is, because they don't have an understanding. And like Tamara said, it's important to leak this information out little by little and let people see for themselves who these players are, such as our governors that are completely going rogue, and other people that are supporting these, draconian restrictions that they're placing on the people. Let them see who's supporting this. Let them see who's not speaking out about it. Let them see who's being quiet about it or supporting these actions. And then they can come to their own conclusions, because if we took everyone off the streets and arrested them and threw them in Gitmo and gave them a trial and executed those people, no one would know why. And people would lose their minds, because the reality that they hold true and firm is not the reality that we've been living in for hundreds of years. So when that time comes and these people's minds are free and their hearts are free and their souls are finally free, and they come to the realization that nothing, I tell people the only thing that you have to remember is that everything is a lie. And once you really understand that, once you really understand that and take hold to what that means, everything is a lie. This is the matrix. This is a construct. It is not real, and it's based upon lies. It's a house of cards. And so these people are going to need to understand what it's like to even be free. They have no concept of freedom.
Exactly. And they have no concept that they haven't been free. They don't even know that they weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the big trick that they trick the people into wanting what's bad for them. And so what many probably don't believe is that there are beings outside of Earth who want to help us. And there's also, how can you say, a big energy and the creator who really want to help us, but we need to want it. So many people don't believe that their prayers can achieve anything, but they can. And once that people realize that, they can receive all the good stuff. But right now they are so tricked in that the life that we have here, or the society, is the only possible society right now. You know, it's the biggest lie that there has to be hunger and homelessness or wars, etc., etc., that there has to be a suffering. It's the biggest lie. But I think people need to wake out of that. So I think it's not necessarily about the detailed information, who's the good, who's the bad guy here. I think it's about waking up out of the lie that there has to be poverty and homelessness and hunger, etc., etc. So people limit their mind. But once people stop limiting their mind, they will see that everything is possible, that there can be free energy. But who would tell us if there is free energy? Who would tell us? You know?
Yeah, I mean, these are things that I talk about on my Facebook page every so often because I think it should be spoken about. And people don't believe that free energy is even a real concept. I mean, there's so many people that don't know the potential that we have as a people. They don't know the advancements we've made over the last 100 years. They don't know what's waiting for us, what's been suppressed from we the people, the medical advancements, the technological advancements. I mean, I've seen potentially what we could be in the future, and it's not very far away. That's why I'm hoping this situation is very real, that we are trying to move in the right direction, because the benefits and the blessings are endless. I mean, the healing, like I said, that's available to us, or should be available to us, it's unfathomable for some people. And it really breaks my heart, because it seems like people are so ingrained with the idea of sickness and dying that they're actually living for those things. They understand that you're born, you go to school, you get an education, you work, you get married, you have a family, you continue to work, and then you die. And they think that that's life. I've never, ever bought that idea. I've never bought into it. I never felt it was normal. I've always been sort of a breakaway society kind of person, whether I expressed it outwardly or not, but I knew that wasn't real life. And it does sound like slavery, you know, because the majority of us make other people rich, and we don't really enjoy the rewards of our hard work until it's almost too late, and that's not a life. So my wish is for people to just really be open to the possibilities that await us, the positive transition that we can make, and that we all put our energy into the realization of that.
Yeah. I think that was a really nice, how can I say? I think it was a really nice ending for the show, and I would like to do another recording if you still have a bit more time, so that we can talk about other topics too. So for now, I thank everyone for listening. That was Colors of the Universe on Ascension Radio Studio 3. And yeah, maybe you guys want to give a bye-bye as well.
Thank you, Evie and Freya. It was great talking to you guys. You're both so smart and really just talented women. And I'm very happy that I can call both of you my friends. Thank you for the chat.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks, Tamara, for inviting me, and Eve as well. I had a blast, and hopefully we can do it again.
Thank you for listening to Colors of the Universe here at Studio 3 on Ascension Radio. If you enjoy what we're doing, please send a donation via the PayPal button on radio.mpeg.org. Find more amazing content and updates on our Facebook page. And now, just be your colorful self and enjoy your day.